So it's back to Hill 60 and Asmodea on the morning of the 8th of August 1915. However, because they had wandered the night lost, the Australians, instead of being below Hill 971, they were caught in the open, over 2 kilometres short of their objective, and now the Turks could see them coming.
Looking to the east up Kajik Deer, that's Hill 971 in the background there, centre screen, and up to my left is the Hill 60 cemetery, and indeed that's Hill 60 there. Kajik Deer, not far from the last video. There's the cutting there used to get up onto the spur line that led up to Hill 100. They came up Kajik Deer, which we're in now. The sides became quite steep and they decided to go back to that cutting, which is a few hundred metres back down to the west. So, just come up from Kajik Deer, and this is almost certainly the cutting the Australians used to get up on the plateau where the olive trees are. That was not far from Hill 60, which is about 200 metres that way. So this is almost certainly the cutting they used to get up on top of the plateau. So let's go and have a look. And they came across some oat fields, paddocks, at the top of the cutting. So as the Australians proceeded up Yuan Tep through the oat field, they've come across this open country. And this is where things started to come unstuck. These slopes of Asmodea Valley. This track that goes up the steep side of Yuan Tep towards Hill 100 from Hill 60. So the Australians have probably disappeared into this rougher, more undulating, probably overgrown slightly bit of ground for some cover, and then tried to get down to the left through there into Asmodea. I'm standing on Yuan Tep, about 150, 200 metres short of Hill 100, looking out across Asmodea. That's Asmodea that way, and that feature centre screen there now with that bit of white face is Sand Ridge face running up is the feature I believe the Turks had their LA Tep, had their machine guns and their defensive position set up covering Asmodea. Anyway, that's where I'm headed. I've had no luck getting down into Asmodea from here. It's pretty steep. So I'm coming down the slopes of Yuan Tep into Asmodea. Hill 60 is there, probably about 800 metres behind me to the west. Asmodea is there in front of me, and LA Tep, I believe, is that feature immediately centre screen to front there, overlooking Asmodea down here. Anyway, I'm going to go and have a look, I think.
Charles Bean's 1919 photograph of the remains of Australian digger on Hill 100, on the slopes of Hill 100, on the way down to Asmodea.
So you can see that line of straight left-right hills in the top left-hand corner of the Charles Bean photograph. I reckon that's them there, the other side, the southern side of Australia Valley. So I reckon we're sort of looking on the same angle. You can see a drop off into Asmodea on the left-hand top corner as well in Bean's picture. So I reckon the picture may have been taken from on that ridge line I climbed yesterday, looking to the southeast. So it's likely the remains of that soldier centre screen there now were on the sides of that ridge line I climbed up towards Hill 100 yesterday. That's also supported not only by the southern side of Australia Valley, you can see centre screen there now, but also by the shape of the main range in the background there. If I had two hands, I'd zoom in a bit, but you get my drift. This is the MSR track they would have used during the war to get people and supplies in and out of the positions here on LA Tep. It runs up to the northeast and up to the main fire trail track that goes up and down Abdul Rahman, the main spur line up hill 971. Another view looking southwest into Australia Valley from LA Tep, Hill 100, the saddle that gives you entry between Australia Valley and Asmodee down there. That's where they were supposed to go, the Australians, the 4th Brigade. And if you pan further left, Chunnock Bear in the background, and Hill 971's back up to the left, up through the tree there. So I'm sitting here on Yuan Tep where the Turkish machine gun is probably sat, and reflecting on across Asmodee there. So the Australians came from the Hill 60 area, centre screen there, just left that tree now, those cleared fields. Followed the high ground of Yuan Tep up, kept coming up, until they realised they needed to get down, and they've come down there. And there's a Turkish machine gunner sitting here in my trench. They afforded pretty good targets. It's pretty steep on the other side. Would have been difficult to get down. There's very little cover, although on the other side of that ridge line that I climbed yesterday, centre screen there now, there is the what I call the Hill 100 re-entrant. So on the other side of that, you would have been under cover, but you couldn't do anything with it other than perhaps come down into Asmodee. Maybe some of them tried to do that. Certainly coming down those slopes there, which I believe is where that photo was taken, you've got very little chance. These are good defensive positions I'm sitting on.